All right, what's up, y'all? Tim Ream here. I'm on day 23 of 75 hard. Today is going to be the back workout. My AM and PM split is back in the morning, and then I do arms at night. Kind of have some stuff going on with my biceps, so I'm going to take it a little easier in this workout here, just because back is pretty bicep intensive. And then tonight I'm going to throw something else in the mix, like maybe abs and calves, and then just do triceps. But that being said, looking forward to this workout, and gonna monitor my bicep as I go along. If I feel like there's too much strain, I'm gonna switch it up to something. I don't know exactly what, but I got everything pretty much set up. I'm gonna start with pullovers, with cable pullovers, and then move on to like close grip pull down. So yeah, let's get into it, man.
Days are good days. I live that live hard lifestyle. I'm doing the things that I equate to inner peace and happiness on a daily basis, which is the combination of basically three elements, which is discipline, gratitude, and purpose. And so I exercise discipline every day. I have a purpose. I mean, it's clear. I have all these people I have to look after and help, grow their careers, and all these customers that we're trying to help, and doing this show and serving in that way and all these things. So I have plenty of purpose. But the part that really, where if you were to ask me, I was giving you a bad day, like, I had a bad day. It's when I've abandoned my gratitude. It's when I've lost sight. I was talking right before the show. There's days, because the vision of what we were trying to accomplish is so massive that I get caught up in the comparison game, right? And I'll go home and I'll sit in my garage. It's like the Taj Mahal of garages.
I think with those pullovers, I could figure out, maybe I could experiment with some different range of motions and bars, just to see if I can get like better focus on the lat, like maybe with a rope or a straight bar. I got that V bar right now, but maybe just experimenting with different grips and bars just to see what I think. Make sure I'm getting the most out of that exercise.
There's days where I'll go home and I'll look around and be like, fuck, dude, I'm so far behind where, like, Nike would have been, and this is, I start comparing myself to Amazon and Nike, because, that's the ultimate vision of what I see and what we're trying to do. I don't compare myself to other companies that are in my same industry. I compare myself to companies that are, the best companies that ever existed. And I believe that if they did those things, that we can figure out how to do those things. And so, it's easy to get caught up, because even though I've been at this for 24 years and we've been successful so far, I also understand that my success will end the day that I stop showing up. And so, there's a balance there that I walk. I like to be a little bit, I don't really want to find that exact place of perfect inner peace, because it's going to be place. And so what I like to do is I like to balance and be a little bit dissatisfied, because it helps me stay driven,
Do you think there's a place where you could be satisfied and peaceful and create more abundance in your life?
I mean, let's be real, bro.
My biceps feeling pretty good right now. It's only the first exercise, but not feeling too bad.
I have no doubt you're going to get there, but I'm curious, do you think you get there more peacefully? Is the goal?
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know if I like that version of myself that much, bro. Like real talk. Like,
Yeah,
I can get a little bit more.
I've been talking about injuries and quitting while you're ahead. If you actually feel stuff like before you just drive it into the ground and it gets worse and you have to take off for a couple weeks or something, it's better to just stop while you're ahead. So that's why I'm trying to be conscious of putting too much strain on it.
Driven by the dark side.
The chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, and I still have it, but I just don't show it the way I used to show it.
So I'm gonna drop weight a little bit compared to what I usually do on my maxes, and I'm just gonna focus on a lot of negative work, I'd say, and just getting the range of motion down and a good squeeze, contraction, and then just the negative, and just focus on that entire range of motion. And sometimes not every workout's the most intense. Stuff like this happens, life happens, stuff pops up. You just got to work around it. But for me, it's staying in the motion. If you're taking a couple days off, then it's going to be even harder to get back in here. So it's just like the longevity, it's the long game. So
I still angry and why do I need more? Like I need to go further, right? And when I realized that there was a difference between success and greatness when I started on my healing journey and on a journey of progress, right? It's not like I'm perfect or anything like that, but on the journey of process. But success was selfish when it's just for me. When I have goals and dreams that are just for me, that's success, and I feel like that's never going to be enough. But when we lean into greatness, it's going after our goals and dreams and having a bigger purpose and mission to serve others around us in that pursuit.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you've done really well. You've always been about the mission, but I feel like it's even more about the mission now, where it's less about, okay, you have the cars, you have the
there's
money.
nothing I want.
Right, exactly.
There's nothing I want, bro. I show up here every day for these guys here, for these guys out here,
Yeah.
you know, and I look at it as it's transition, bro. You're exactly right. Like when we first met, which was probably 2015, 14, 15, I was trying to prove that I was going to be successful. You know, I had all these people hating on me. I had all these people, you know, the things that everybody deals with. And I was very much so driven by it. And then I got to a point, you know, a number of years later, you know, I lost 110 pounds. I got my physical shape in check. The company started really growing. You know, true personal success materialized in a massive way.
Right.
And, you know, you find yourself in that situation, you're still pretty young. You're looking around, and you're like, well, this ain't it.
Right. Now what?
Yeah. And so what's helped me is that I started to figure out, I had this situation happen to me where I got sick I had pneumonia, and I got sick for like 17 days. And I missed that much work. And at the time, you know, this is 2016 or so, I think. I was making the most money I'd ever made in my life. I thought I was rich, right? Now, like I look back, and I'm like, bro,
You
weren't rich.
Did you have the jet then?
No,
No jet. Yeah.
No.
But you were flying. You were
Yeah,
flying stuff.
I still don't have a jet. I charter because like
Yeah.
sometimes it's just me, sometimes it's 15 people.
Sure.
So I don't want to fly a massive jet everywhere I go just for me.
Yeah.
But I sort of see my bank account go up, and I was very sick, and I was very bored, and I was miserable at home. And every day I checked my sales were going up. Every day I checked my bank account, my bank account's going up, you know? And the first 17 days, I got paid a couple times during that time.
Right.
So, I'm fucking miserable.
Why do you think you're miserable?
Well, cause dude, this is the realization I came to. I came to the realization that like, dude, you have everything that you need. This is not cool, and this isn't cool. Like, I'm not getting anything out of this. I've already got that. And it dawned on me that the purpose what I was really supposed to do was to drive our company so that these people who had paid the price for me to even have that would also be able to create their dream underneath them as well. And so that's whenever I can point it down to a specific time where it went from, you know, the pursuit of success to the pursuit of greatness.
That's beautiful,
How you're
man.
defining it.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool to witness. And I had to do my own transition where it was all about me.
Yeah.
In a sense, I was unconscious to it. I was just like, I want to accomplish this goal and this dream, and I want to make this much money. And then when it happened, it still wasn't feeling like, where's the feeling I'm supposed to have?
Mm-hmm.
And once I started to look back and say, okay, I've done a bunch of stuff, but I still don't feel fulfilled. That's when I said, I gotta start making everything else about how can I impact the people around me the best way possible? How can I lift them up and elevate them? It's one of the reasons why I started the School of Greatness, because I was like, I want to shine a light on everyone else and not make it about me originally, and just lift others up, create a platform for those. And that helped me let go of the ego a lot of just being successful for me. I still want to be successful,
Right.
but I think
You've probably also figured out that being successful is a product of what you do for others.
100%.
Yeah.
100% impacting the people around you and learning as much value as possible, which you guys do at First Form. It's beautiful.
So with the
But when I realized
pullovers, I exhaust the lats with those, and I go into my pull down type of movements. I feel like it gives me a lot better of a workout on my lats itself. They're a lot more isolated. And if I try to just burn out with just say like a lat pull down, I don't feel like I get as much. I'll have to do like a lot more sets just to really get my mind in the muscle. But since I started out with the pullovers, like I got a lot of a stretch there, contraction, minding the muscle, blood and the pump going. And then I can go right into that next exercise. And it really just hits home and hits harder when you're doing those close grip lat pull downs.
Okay, I'm gonna learn and grow. So fear of failure was not a thing for me, but if you ask a bunch of people listening, and you guys DM Andy and say, have you ever been afraid to fail? I bet a lot of people will say, yes, I've been afraid to fail. And it's why they don't start the show or launch the book or do it or start the company or whatever it is. They don't go for the girl, whatever it might be, they're afraid of failure. The second fear is the fear of success. I didn't understand this growing up either because I wanted to be successful, right?
This is one I never got either.
Exactly. Yeah. But when I go and speak in rooms and I ask people who here has ever been afraid of success, I'm shocked. More than half the room raises their hand. I never understood it. It confuses me. Never understood
I
it.
did the same thing.
Here's the thing though. When I started to ask questions about it, I realized that there's a weight to go. There's a massive responsibility you have being a leader of this company, being a leader of
And I'm not
400 plus employees.
I'm not a big fan of, like, I like to lean back and pull into my chest. Lean back and pull into my chest rather than like pull from a top down position. I feel like I can squeeze the like sides of my lats and get more focus across the entire center of the back there. But if I'm out high for some reason, I just don't feel like I'm doing a lot of bicep work and stuff. So I feel like that leaning back, and it's probably different for different people, but for me, that leaning back and pulling close to the chest, I feel like that's where it's at, man. You lean forward and get that stretch and then pull it back in. I just feel like you're utilizing that entire range of motion versus if you're just like this, it's kind of unnatural for me because you're like pulling at it's like against your body's mechanics. Like you're out and pulling forward instead of just in line with your center line, and I don't know, it's just, it doesn't seem like a natural movement to me. And if I'm moving against my body's mechanics, and I'm putting unnecessary strain on my shoulders and then to the elbows, like I don't think you're gonna have that strong of a lift, but it's just gonna be like, it's like,
supported you once. It's scary. And it's also scary to figure out, like, do people...
I don't know, it's like putting strain on an object that's like leaning forward versus like its best strength and stability is right down on its center of gravity. It's like it's off. You're like kind of almost tearing the object apart at the same time. Bump up weight here a little bit.
For most of my life, and I think that whole walk will go back to, which is the fear of judgment, the opinions of other people. Again, I could try anything and fail and be okay. I wasn't afraid to at least attempts. I wanted success, so I was going after it. But it was all the...
And with this whole going to failure aspects with one set, like, dude, I see people doing, like, I've been talking about forearms, and I'll see them, like, go into the gym and then start doing forearms for their first workout. I'm like, dude, you do realize that you're burning yourself out because everything that you're going to touch is going to be forearm intensive. Whether it's chest, whether it's back, whether it's arms. Like, dude, that's one of those exercises you'll leave for at the end. Because if you go in there and burn out your forearms right before you do back, do you think you're actually going to be able to reach failure on your lats, or do you think you're going to probably reach muscular failure on your forearms first? So really, it's kind of like a self-defeating exercise to where if you put that first, then you're kind of ruining your entire workout because then now that's the weak link. So it's one of those exercises you want to be more strategic with and put more at the end of your workout, or just save it for an all different day that it's not going to be vital to have that grip strength on the days you actually need it to get that specific focus that you need, like on a back day or something.
From that space, I feel like I can do anything, no matter if people talk crap about me. It doesn't mean I have to like it, but I can still do it and not be afraid of that. And that's really at the core of the greatness mindset, is identifying which fear holds you back. Because I believe self-doubt is the killer of dreams. If we doubt ourselves, it's just going to hold us back. Or if we accomplish, it'll never be enough.
Yeah.
And so we must learn how to accept and love ourselves. I know that's maybe not the talk we'd have here about acceptance and loving yourself, but I truly feel like it's learning to see yourself truly for who you are, all your flaws and insecurities, all your shame, all your past. Get to a place of meaning about everything that's happened to you, to accept yourself now, so that you can lean forward. In your
Biceps feeling pretty good. I can feel it just a little bit.
Yeah, dude. I think first of all,
I think with different grips, like
100%.
especially if I do like a straight bar lat pull down, that's gonna be right on that bicep. But since I've got it a little bit angled different with this close grip, I don't feel like it's as bicep intensive and focused on that bicep as what it would be with other grips. So seems to be doing all right now. I'm still not gonna push it too hard. I'm gonna go like pretty far on this next one, but this last set's a failure, but I'm not gonna push it anything super crazy.
When I go speak, minute luck comes up, 50% of the room shuts the fuck down because they're like, dude, see, you got lucky. I didn't get lucky, and so they use it as a thing. Yes, and so the reason I'm so hard on the self-love space is I am hard on it because I believe it means something else than what most people believe that it means.
I agree.
I believe that it means you should recognize the potential in yourself and love yourself enough to make the changes that produce the best possible version of yourself.
Amen.
It doesn't mean accept yourself and all your flaws and do nothing about them and continue to be a piece of shit.
Be lazy.
Right, exactly. And so like I feel like it's gotten toxic. So the reason that I hammer on it, and it does get misunderstood a lot of people hear me talking, they're like, fuck, this guy's a psychopath. That may be true.
No meditating, guys.
It may be true, you might be right. But it's not that I don't believe in these things, it's just I believe they're misunderstood.
Yeah.
You know, and I believe that there's, you know, like for example, when we talk about you know, the body positivity movement, you know, it's you should feel good about how you look if you're doing the things that are to improve what your health is supposed to be.
You're in alignment.
Yes.
And your actions are in alignment with your greatest self.
Yeah, but none of us are perfect, bro.
Exactly.
Be honest with yourself. Like, are you really happy with how
Right.
you look?
If not, you're probably not making the actions you need to do. You're not being your word.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna ask this, Louis, because like we talked about, we talked about it quite a bit. You know, the work comes before the work, right? So, like, would you agree that a lot of people that have these issues of the self-doubt is because they have not put the work in to have the belief in themselves that they can accomplish whatever it is?
I mean,
Like yours, it took 10 years, right? Like, that took
And those fears that he's talking about too, bro, those are paralyzing fears. They cut the, you're right.
yeah.
But what these three fears that we're talking about here, these are things that create inaction by the nature of the fear.
by default.
Right. And so addressing these fears up front, and especially hearing, you know, I think most people should hear that, like, even somebody like me or somebody, we struggle with those three things.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, do I understand the fear of success? Not really. But as I've gotten more successful, it has become more of a weight.
There's
Like,
a pressure,
yes.
a responsibility.
and that's real.
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
It doesn't get easier.
Nobody prepares you for that.
It doesn't get easier the more successful
No,
you
it gets
become.
much harder.
You have,
If you're an ethical human.
it gets easier in terms of you can take care of financial things easier, but it doesn't make your emotions easier, managing people easier, understanding people's intentions easier, dealing with more conflict, dealing with whatever people are saying about you. Like, the weight of it is big. And I think a lot of people don't want that weight. They don't want the responsibility. And they don't actually know how hard it is to be in your position.
Dude, I never thought about that yet. Like
Oh.
like on my journey, you know, it's 24 years now I've been in business. I never stopped to think about it. Like, of all the fears that you mentioned, I struggle with the third one as well.
Judgment, yeah.
Yeah.
It's usually because we judge ourselves so much.
Yeah, well, what it is that we know our own weaknesses.
Yeah.
We know the shit that we're not great at. And then when someone else happens to point it out, we feel like, oh my God, we've been exposed.
I know.
And it's like, dude, everybody knows this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody's the same. And, but I never thought about the weight, you know, but that's a real thing. It's a massive thing. And people don't, you know, nobody prepares you for that. Like, nobody talks about how much pressure you feel. If you are a decent human, running a massive company where you're responsible for hundreds and thousands of people.
And so many, not every person's gonna understand your intentions.
Yeah.
They may be upset for a multitude of things that
Yeah.
was not your intention, and there's really nothing you can do about it, except just take it on the chin.
It's part of being great.
It's it.
Part of being great is you have to be willing to be misunderstood.
100%, and accept that it's gonna be lonely.
Mm-hmm.
And you might only have a core group of people who truly see you and fully acknowledge what you're up to and accept you for who you are. Everyone else might be judging you, complaining, gossiping behind your back. No matter how loving and caring you are, it may just not be the
So I
case.
went more of the bulk type of movements, two-handed movements,
I'm 100%
just to keep my strength there and put a lot of strain on that muscle. Now that I've worked it pretty good and I went to failure on some of these sets, the last portion of my workout is usually singles, and that's to keep all of the strength gains and the symmetry there, even across both sides of the body. If you're doing like bulky movements with like two hands, then you're probably pushing more or pulling more with your dominant arm or one of your arms. So this is a way, so I go from bulk to ISO, and this is a way to keep that symmetry and strength even across both sides.
One of the things I talk about in the book is I had so many insecurities and fears after I was done playing arena football. Because again, I was only making $250 a week back playing arena football, so it wasn't like I was some huge stud in the NFL. But for me, it was a dream to like get a little check and catch a football. I was like, this is unbelievable, right? It was amazing, and I probably would have done it for free, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know, because I was like, this is just unbelievable. But after that, I went through a period of, I had a surgery and went through a period of just like kind of, who am I, what's my identity, what's happening in the world in 2008 to 2009 and 10. I was trying to figure things out. And I was afraid, I realized that I was acting like I was confident, but I was really afraid inside with so many things. And I had a mentor who said, I want you to make a list of all your fears. And he said, create a fear list. And what I want you to do is start knocking it off one by one. Start with the biggest fear first. And public speaking was a big one. I couldn't stand in front of a classroom without stuttering and kind of trembling and just feeling very insecure because I had a very low reading level and a communication level in middle school and high school.
That's amazing to hear, honestly. I was thinking about, because like you honestly, real talk, I think you do one of the best interviewers in the planet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But in 8th grade, when I came to St. Louis, 8th grade, boarding school in Cynthia High, they tested me for all the standardized tests. I had a 2nd grade reading level. But from 8th grade all the way through 7 years of college, I had a tutor. During lunch, I was in special needs classes. And really, in my senior year of high school, the English teacher was like, Lewis, if you're failing right now, if you don't pass, you cannot graduate high school English. You can't go play college football. And so she would help me after class every day to just get to a passing grade, just because it was very challenging for me. So I had this insecurity because I felt like everyone else around me was just way smarter. And based on evidence and results on the grade cards that we had, they ranked us. I don't know if they did that at your school. So I was always in the bottom 4.
Me too.
So I was always just like, okay, I'm the dumbest person here and probably in the world. That was the belief that I built based on the evidence and the results I was getting. And I was working hard. I was trying to study. It wasn't like I wasn't giving effort, but it was just, didn't understand it. And so he said, I want you to create a fear list. Public speaking was a big one because I had that insecurity. And so what I did is I met someone who's a public, professional speaker who got paid to speak. And he said, you need to go to Toastmasters. And if you really want to overcome your fear, you've got to do it every week. You can't just go once a month or once in a while. You've got to do it every week for a year and act like it's a sport, like you're training for the championship.
What's Toastmasters?
Toastmasters is an international association that teaches public speaking. They give away workshops and classes from basic speaking to advanced, and they teach you how to communicate effectively. They give you different prompts. So you do 10 speeches to finish like your first course. 10 kind of main speeches. But I would go every week and I would present something for at least a 2-minute speech. But sometimes it was longer. And the first time so I was like, okay, I knew I had a vision or a dream to want to impact people one day. I didn't know if it could be me working in an office or me as a coach. I had no idea. But I knew I needed to be able to communicate effectively and confidently to do anything in my life.
Dude, I just covered this on the freaking last show that we
Really?
recorded. Yeah, what you're talking about, how important this is.
Yeah. And so he said, I want you to go every week. And so I committed to it like I was training for a sport. And I went every week. And the first week, I remember I had to give a speech. My first speech, it was after a few weeks of going, but my first speech, you're supposed to give a 5-minute speech. And they call it the icebreaker. It's like, tell us a little bit about who you are. And you have 5 minutes. It took me weeks to figure out how am I going to speak for 5 minutes. No joke. This is, 15 years ago. It took me weeks to figure out how I have an interesting story. Like, is people going to be interested in this? I have no clue what to say. All you do is speak for 5 minutes. And I was terrified. I wrote down word for word the speech and I practiced it for weeks. And when I gave my first presentation, I stood behind a podium in front of 20 people and word for word looked down and read the whole speech. I did not look up one time. I was terrified to look at people, to see them laughing at me, judging me, kind of just giving me awkward stares. So I couldn't look people in the eyes. It was terrifying. And I remember after you get feedback after every speech you give. So it's a safe environment, but I was still terrified of the judgment, right? Of what people were going to say, even though they're supposed to lift you up. I was terrified. And they give you feedback, and I remember I was like, okay, I got the hardest part done. This is the most embarrassed I've ever felt. These are all professional speakers. They give me feedback. It's a safe environment, but I still feel humiliated, sweating on my pitch, just like horrible feeling. I was like, okay, I gotta train this like a sport. Every week I went back, and I couldn't wait to go back. I was like, okay, I'm gonna improve on this. I'm gonna get more feedback. And I got a coach from there. I was just like meeting with my coach every week, teach me how to do this. By the end of the year, I got a standing ovation. I didn't need any notes, I didn't need anything, but it was that consistency of diving into the thing that I was most afraid of every single week till the end of the year, being able to do it with confidence and poise and being able to remember my points without having to read them down and just being able to implement all the things I learned in a year. That has made me so much money going all in on my fear. And I talk about in the greatness mindset, it's really figuring out the talents and the skills and the things that make you feel powerful and leaning into those things, which you've done so well. But also in this fear list, it's figuring out where you feel the most insignificance and also the most powerless. And this was an area that I felt powerless. But after this process of doing what you said, which is taking action consistently to build up your belief, I felt like it was a superpower. I felt like, okay, now this is a superpower. Something I thought I would never be able to do that made me feel powerless is now a superpower. I'm putting this in my tool belt as a confidence tool that I have now. Let me go down the list of fears and check off the next one. Let me go take it on like a sport the next year, and the next one, and the next one. And by doing that, that's how you build belief. But you turn your fear list into something that is really supporting you for the rest of your life by going all in on it. So that's what I did, and that's what a lot of the greats do. They figure out what is their biggest fear and insecurity, and they attack it. They don't hesitate, they attack.
Dude, I failed my college public speaking course. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm one of the highest paid speakers in the fucking.
I know, look at you now, man.
Yeah.
You turned it into an asset.
Yeah, it's the same thing you're talking
It's
about.
amazing.
Yeah, like I used to get nervous standing in front of my 8 employees over on Manchester Road at a supplement store. And I would, the same thing, dude. I'd have to read it.
Oh, man.
People don't understand that. Like, you have to go through that process. Like, everybody you look at, everybody you admire, everybody you want to emulate or be like or who inspires you, they've all been you.
Yes.
All of them. And I think if people would just take a minute to remind themselves of that. Nobody comes out of the womb an amazing public speaker or an amazing entrepreneur or an amazing, humanitarian or philanthropist or organizer or whatever it is that you do. Nobody comes out that way. The first time they try it, they get punched in the fucking face, man.
Multiple times.
Yeah, right. And it keeps happening.
Yeah.
And the real key is that perseverance, man. And every single time, if you're willing to just learn the lesson and put it in your tool belt, I like to say that too, it becomes an asset, man.
Huge asset.
Yeah.
And you kept doing it. You turned that fear of like speaking to 8 people, and you just kept trying and practicing and trying new stuff, and some things didn't work and they didn't listen to you, and then you figured out
You know what? Sometimes I go out there now and I suck. reality. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it is what it is. I just accept that that's part of the deal. You know, like you don't get to, you could be a Hall of Fame baseball player and hit the ball 3 times out of 10.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. It's just a number. Nobody's perfect all the time. Nobody's good all the time. But people will remember you for your greatness when they get to witness.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something that, you know, people have to understand. No matter how good you get, you're still going to have days that are bad.
Absolutely. Another tool that I have is so I started making money as a speaker after this, which I never thought of. I was like, who would ever pay me? You know, what do I have to offer on stage? I started making money for years, and I started speaking on even bigger stages, you know, 5,000, 10,000 people that were like you. And I was like, okay, I know how to speak. I've been speaking for years now. I've been doing it over and over again, you know, probably 2 speeches a month for years. But I was still getting nervous before my speeches. And I don't know if this happens for you, but this happened about 5 years ago. And I was like, I'm sick and tired of being nervous. After 10 years of doing this, why am I still a little bit insecure before I go on stage? You always hear people say, well, nerves is a good thing, it makes you prepared, it makes you focused. Yes, but I was insecure, and I didn't know why that was happening. And I called a coach of mine, probably 30 minutes before a big speech, and I go, I don't know why I'm nervous and why I'm kind of like still insecure and worried. And he said, Lewis, you care so much about how you look. You're focused on saying the joke the right way, you're focused on the opening line, you're focused on this, and you seem to focus on service. You need to know and own that you will forget something you want to say. You're going to forget that funny joke, or the timing's going to be off. You need to know it and own it and be okay with it. Like, go into it knowing this is not going to be a perfect speech, and I accept that it won't be. I accept that it won't be. I'm prepared the best I can to give the best I can, but I know I can always do better, and it's okay. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show up, I'm going to serve the audience and give them what they need. Not get what I need out of this, give them what they need. And it shifted everything for me with a lot of things. My podcast, when I have a big guest on, I'd be nervous, and I just said, I'm here to serve the audience, and I'm not going to be perfect.
It's your intent.
My intention is to serve people the best way I can, and I'm going to stutter, I'm going to forget something, I'm going to say something stupid, and that's okay. And when I started to do that, I actually relaxed a lot more and performed better. Because I wasn't thinking about me. It was about.
It wasn't fucking good club.
It wasn't about being successful. It was about service, which is greatness. And you actually achieve more when you lean into service. And so that's just another tool for people. If you feel insecure or nervous, stop thinking about me and start thinking about how can you give.
Dude, what you just described, it's so cool that you described it that way, because the same exact process happened for me. You said you don't often get nervous. I did used to get nervous. But I do not get nervous at all anymore, ever, for really anything. And the reason I don't, and Ed Milet's the one that pointed this out.
He's great.
He's the best. He's my best friend. He's the only guy I can truly talk to who I know will actually not judge. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
At this point in time.
Yeah.
He's not gonna run away and say, oh, Andy told me this. I could be real with him, you know what I'm saying? But he pointed this out. And he's like, look, man, he's like, if you want to, he's like, just remember that you were there. Your intent is for them to get better. And if you approach everything, whether it be a speech, or whether it be a podcast, or whether it be your business plan, or whether it be a conversation, a relationship, and your intent is always in the right spot, you don't have any problems in that.
Yeah.
And people pick up on it. The energy that people pick up once I actually came to the understanding that this is what the key was, the energy that the people pick up is much better. It's like you said, it's lighter. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not up there, you know, when I speak, you know, bro, I don't even prepare you. I speak from the heart. So when I go up there, if I'm teaching an art or something, I might do slides and points. But for the most part, if I'm giving a speech, dude, you're hearing what's on my heart that day at that time.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
My friend Rory Vaden said to me one time, it's hard to be nervous when your heart's on service.
Yes.
It's hard to be nervous when your heart's on service. And I think it's so true. It's just like when your heart's thinking about yourself looking good, you'll probably be more nervous. But when we're just focused out and just thinking about what we did, knowing it's not gonna be the perfect thing, but it's gonna be exactly what people need right now, that's when it's mattering.
Yeah. That piece of advice really made a difference to me, in a lot of different ways.
When did I tell you that?
Well, it's been a couple years. You know, it's been a couple years. I mean, I was already great at speaking and doing, you know, all these things, but, you know, my point is always develop and improve. And, you know, Ed and I, our conversations, you know, they're very much so like very honest with each other, and improve each other.
Yes.
And that was just something that he pointed out in one of the many conversations that we had that just stuck with me. You just described the whole process.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
He respects you so much. I was just looking yesterday, and he's just like amazed at who you are, who you've become as a human, and what you're building.
A lot of that has to do with my friendship with him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been a great, you know, because he's a little bit older than me. He's got more life experience, and he's been great at subtly directing me
Yeah.
in a healthy, you know, productive way.
Yeah.
You know, he's never been someone that's been like, Andy, you're too much, or Andy, you're this or that. It's always been, you know, hey, have you ever thought about this? Have you ever thought about that? And those things, you know, for me, that's the best way to communicate.
So that is the back workout right there. I cycled the intensity, kept it lower. This workout, it's hit my 45 minutes. I still need to go about, I don't know, we'll go like another 10 minutes or something. So I'm going to throw calves in there, even though I wasn't going to work them. I'll work them again tonight whenever I'm at the actual gym. Yeah, I'm going to do standing calves for a few sets, and then I'm going to do some seated calves. And that should put us at our like about 50 minutes for the workout.
From what you know now, like what's the number one thing you say? Getting a little bit more, you know, fulfillment or peace, or getting there faster, or you know, not beating yourself as much up. What would you say to yourself then?
I would have sat myself down and had a talk about my own discipline and what it meant to be disciplined in all areas.
Because you weren't at this point.
I was, at that time at 33, I was 330 pounds. I was drinking all the time, partying all the time. I thought it was cool to be a wild guy, you know what I'm saying?
Wild man.
Yeah, and that's how, I was always that way growing up. And, you know, I wish I would have had someone that sat me down and said, hey bro, you know, that's not as cool as you fucking think it is. You know what I'm saying? And you're very undisciplined, and you're emotionally undisciplined. And if you develop this discipline now, you will get much further ahead at a much faster rate.
Yeah.
And I think that's the advice that I would have focused on there, because I didn't really figure that out until I was about 36 years old, right? And at that time, I was 350 pounds. I was big, dude.
I remember.
Yeah.
Could have put my arms around it.
Yeah. And, you know, once I started figuring that out, man, everything accelerated. And it's undeniable. I mean, it's all areas of life. Everything's gotten much better, not just from a, you know, success standpoint, but from a happiness standpoint, a fulfillment standpoint, and a feeling of gratitude standpoint.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Everything got better
Yeah.
when my discipline, when I learned how to be disciplined. And the thing that, you know, people should understand is that discipline is not just about your body. Like we talk about it in 75 Hard and Live Hard, and it focuses heavily on your physical. But the truth is that discipline, once you learn it, can be applied to all areas. And so that's the thing that I wish I would have understood at a younger age, that had I had the skills to not only be disciplined in the physical, now, you know, I struggle with my physique. Like, it wasn't like I'd never been in shape before. I had just become undisciplined.
Right.
And, you know, I think if I had understood at 33 what that could actually do for me, I would have bought it hook, line, and sinker, and dedicated my entire life to
And
it.
gone all in on it.
Yeah, for sure. Because, dude, the amount of progress that has happened in my life in all areas from the time I started figuring that out to now is like I did like 20 years worth of I got 20 years worth of results in like 4.5 years.
Amazing.
You know what I'm saying? And so that's the impact of taking true control over your existence, is that it greatly accelerates everything else.
I'm curious then, in that discipline phase of the last 10 years.
So I was watching this video the other day, and this guy was busting down basically
Change about your thinking.
what the most productive way to do a squat was. And they were examining whether it was the entire range of motion all the way to the top, or if it was like the top half of the motion, or if it was the bottom half of the motion. They concluded that it was the bottom half of the motion. If you can stay in that range, then it's the most productive. But I mean, yeah, if you need science to confirm that, okay. But I feel like, I'm pretty sure that if you came in here and just did what was literally the hardest part of the movement, I would say it's probably going to be that bottom half. It's got the most tension on it. You know, you got the most weight coming down at the hardest angle. And if you stay in that groove right there, then you're probably going to get the most gain. So, I don't know. All of this stuff, I don't think you necessarily need science for it. Like, yes, that might be helpful, but I'd say if you just do what is the hardest, and you can feel, it's like, dude, that's working the shit out of it. Just stay right there. So, I've been going all the way up with my calves and just stretching at the end, but I don't know, that feels like there's more tension on it, so I'm just going to work that. I'll mess around with it over the next couple workouts if I think to, but you know, I don't know, I'm just going to keep that going just because I feel like there's the most tension there on that bottom half of the movement. And I'm kind of not standing just straight up. I'm actually standing at an angle back because you're actually putting your heel at a harder angle with it stepped back rather than right here. So like you're probably increasing probably 15 or 20 degrees maybe. I don't know what it is technically, but I can tell you're definitely getting a harder squeeze there at the bottom whenever you kick your feet back out behind your back like a foot or something.
This is how I truly feel. I truly feel that everything happened the way that it should, because it's gotten to this point. And I feel like now, you know, I feel like I'm comparing the two versions of myself.
Basically what I'm saying with that movement is I don't think you needed science to tell you that it's harder at the bottom portion of that movement. And since it's harder, it's putting more stress on your body. And therefore, it's a greater stress your body has to cope to. So why wouldn't it be the most productive? Like, you don't necessarily need science to tell you. It's just like find the hardest portion of that rep range and fucking stay in it, dude. Like, you know, whatever, man.
That part came out too often, and it came out in situations where it wasn't appropriate. For example, like, you know, there's people who I would have a meeting with, right? And like, what would end up happening is like they would be afraid that that was going to come out. So I didn't get anything good from it, right? So I sabotaged them, and now here I am years later, and I'm realizing, fuck, that wasn't good.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And so there's
still look what you created.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, you know, it's hard, man, because I feel very fortunate to be where we are. And so it's hard to really criticize the past, but I can tell you this for sure. I was thinking about this just earlier today. You know, had I had, like let's just say me now could talk to me then, in the beginning, like back when I first started in 1999, I could have saved myself probably 2/3 of the success journey that I was on, just from the shit that I know now that I didn't know then. But more importantly, I could have saved myself tons of mental agony because I could have reassured that, hey, look, this is just the way it goes. And this is just part of the.
Where do you get the best squeeze? Where do you get the best contraction? Well, it's whenever you're in the fully contracted position too, you know? Whether that's downward stretch or upward stretch. Kind of did 21s on that where I hit the bottom half and then tried to see what that top half was like too. And since I already burned it out, doing that bottom range of motion whenever I went into the top range of motion, I just feel like it gave me really good isolation too, I guess. So probably just fucking do it until it burns and then fucking drive it home with as many as you possibly can after that. Contradictory? I don't know. I don't really care, honestly. I'm just a guy trying to get a good ass fucking workout at home and build muscle as best he can. Alright, we're gonna go over here to seated. I'll do maybe 1 or 2 exercises for it and then be fucking done with calves.
You know what I'm saying? I was broke, I was a struggling business owner, we weren't very successful, I was not in great shape. So like I get why people would question. But I remember posting a couple times in the very beginning, and you know, people that were in my family, the people that were related to me, getting in the comments section and being like, I know the exact person, and I'm not gonna say his name.
Remember the day and time you saw it.
I do, and I never forget it. That's a problem for me, because I have basically a photographic memory. I can remember anything. Like if I read your book, I can recite it to you.
Wow.
So
That's a gift.
It is a gift, but it's not a gift because of shit like that.
Right.
Because I remember every single fucking thing that anybody ever said wrong to me, I remember it.
Wow.
And so, this guy who's related to me got in my comment section, he laughed, and he's like, oh, I guess you think you're Tony Robbins now. And this is somebody that grew up, looking at me.
You looked up to him.
Yes, it was devastating. And I got pissed, and I went back at him real hard, and called him out on all his shit. But the truth of the matter is like, for most people, that first time that happens, because that went on to happen a bunch of different times in different ways, right? The first time that happens, people stop. And they're like, you know what, I'm not Tony Robbins. And you know what, I'm not Tony Robbins. There's only one Tony Robbins. I'm me. And
Is it because they're thinking the same shit inside, like internally, they're thinking the same thoughts, and now they're getting this external validation of like,
Well, the thing is, you know what I'm saying? No one creating anything meaningful is criticizing someone else.
no,
You don't
that's it.
see-
You
you don't
never see a winner hating on a winner.
And you never see negative comments on Amazon review from other authors.
Yeah.
No other author is gonna go and say, this book sucks, this podcast sucks if they have a podcast. They're not gonna do that, because they know how hard it is to create something.
Yeah.
Even if it does
And there's a
suck.
base level of respect,
100%.
and you went through the process.
Yeah.
Like, bro, I've been asked to have lots of people on my show where their book wasn't that great. So I didn't have them on the show.
Yeah.
But I also commended them and I said, hey, this is great that you wrote that book, it's just not the right time.
Exactly.
And I let them, I don't hammer them down.
Yeah, you're
I
not
let
gonna
them
make a
continue to
review.
grow.
Yeah.
And eventually they'll end up sitting over there.
Uh-huh.
And so, dude, we all deal with these things. Like every single person listening, like the third fear especially, the fear of judgment, is I think that's the fear
All right.
that paralyzes most people.
That's the back workout today for day 23, 75 hard.
And especially
Everything's going pretty good.
over the last 5 or 6 years, people,
Really just can't wait to see what the end result is going to be in all this, especially with the spring cut and just like another 50 days of following a strict diet, since I've pretty much never done that before, at a caloric deficit. So really excited to see where I'm going to be physically with my physique and just all of that stuff too. Not to mention just the mental aspect of it. I can already feel a lot of benefits of, doing what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. And I'm telling you, it does clear up a lot of the conversation in your head. Whenever you just, boom, you're kind of moving in congruence with what you're thinking, and you're in kind of a symbiotic relationship with it. But anyways, dude, I appreciate you guys following along. If you've got any questions or need any help with anything, hit me up in the comments. I'm definitely here to help. So, all right, man.